Hello everyone, I'm Alan Fisher. On this episode of AZ Illustrated Science, links between compassion and inflammation, and thought-provoking images of cancer cells may provide new insights into cancer treatments. But first, here's a look at the day's top stories.
The Arizona legislature continues wrestling with a state budget for the next fiscal year. The House of Representatives is working to figure out an approach after a group of moderate Republicans struck a deal with House Speaker Andy Tobin late Monday that was described as tenuous. By midday today, talks were back on as House leaders tried to get enough votes to pass the plan. Governor Jan Brewer will have final say on whatever budget plan lawmakers pass. Her office has not issued a statement about the House budget, but officials say there are still about a dozen issues the governor wants to see addressed, and the House plan does not take care of them. The State Senate Appropriations Committee approved a proposal today authorizing Arizona to build a virtual fence along the border with Mexico. The bill allows the state to put up 300 towers with radar and cameras along the border. The U.S. government tried a similar program, but scrapped it after spending $1 billion a few years ago. Supporters of Arizona's project say they could do it for $30 million. The proposal approved in the Senate has no money tied to it. The Senate Appropriations Committee also approved a bill making it more difficult for public school districts to convert some schools to charters. That idea is one of the major stumbling blocks for House budget negotiators. Senate President Andy Biggs supports the plan, saying charter schools are draining money from other public schools. And that's a look at tonight's headlines.
Just how compassionate are you? The answer is not just metaphysical. Scientists have found links between compassion, depression, and inflammation. This month, we are featuring a number of research projects studying inflammation. In this program, we begin by attending a weekend-long event called CBCT, or Cognitively Based Compassion Training.
May I cherish all beings as more precious than the wish-fulfilling jewel.
One of the main things for me was directing compassion toward myself. And I think that's a big challenge for a lot of people. We tend to be very kind to others, but meanwhile we can be very, very critical and negative toward ourselves inside.
We are all trying to survive, to be well, right?
Ali Wabel is a student of compassion, seeking it in her life for herself and others. That's why she and nearly 70 other people took part in a 3-day compassion training recently in Tucson.
I'm really excited about compassion because it's sort of fundamental to all ethical systems and religious systems, and it just seems like a very generic process. I mean, it's something I think that we all share.
In order to kind of enhance that ability, that quality to be present with the breath, we need to be able to sustain our awareness.
The group was under the direction of Geshe Lobsang, a former Tibetan Buddhist monk and the founder of Cognitively Based Compassion Training.
Compassion, I think, is really, when you think of as social animals, as we are, that is a glue for a society to kind of come together. And when the societies are in harmonious and it's in that kind of positive state, that's where the individuals and the members of the society, they flourish, that there is a greater health and well-being and happiness. Cultivate ways in which we can relate to people, situations, things in ways that don't lead to those destructive emotions.
The training for it is a secular technique that draws from Lojong, a mind-training practice in Indo-Tibetan Buddhism. Launched in 2005 by the Emory-Tibet Partnership, research on compassion training was designed to test whether it could be used to help college students fight depression and stress. The data confirm that the practice of such training could improve emotional and physical responses to stress.
So we started wondering, well, what if we discovered some way, or what if we developed some way to retrain how people look at their social surroundings, so that instead of seeing the world as a domain of threat and competition, they might see it as an arena for caring and cooperation.
Charles Raison, a University of Arizona psychiatrist and a partner in the training, studies, and application to inflammatory changes.
Over the last 20 years, there's been more and more evidence that the immune system is almost a second brain. And what the immune system does in your body is able to send signals up to your brain that change how you think, change how you feel, change how you act. So we begin to realize that just as inflammation can make people feel depressed and isolated, people who had a lot of stress, people who felt isolated, upset, angry, they get this increased inflammation, which is going to cause them heart attacks and strokes and cancer and dementia and depression.
Promote that alertness.
The training in Tucson brought together people from a variety of backgrounds and perspectives, students, teachers, and practitioners of meditation.
Just take a deep breath through the nostrils, bringing the breath down to the chest as the lungs expand.
Some, such as Gina Sestaro, came with a specific goal in mind.
I'm here for two reasons, personal and professional. So I've been interested in mindfulness training for a long time and tried to develop my own practice and was partially successful, but felt like I really wanted actual training in it for my own practice at home. But also I'm interested in it professionally. I'm switching careers from being a full-time studio art teacher to getting a degree in expressive arts therapy.
Connect with that feeling here of deep comfort and joy, a sense of being secure that you feel. In this training, what people will get is a logic, if you will, underlying a process for cultivating compassion. How do we develop compassion? What are the key elements or the key kind of ingredients for cultivating compassion? And how to go about enhancing those specific ingredients, specific skills.
Lobsang says key elements of the training include regulating emotions and developing awareness of one's own emotions, thoughts, and underlying assumptions. He adds that practicing compassion is also about expanding these techniques to strangers and people we don't care for. Ellie Wabel says she's been interested in compassion training for a long time. She says through such training she wants to become more compassionate toward herself and others.
All of the meditation and especially compassion training that I've done is a matter of just opening the heart. And so being able to connect with people in a more present way. It's less about what I'm thinking about them and more about just connecting in the heart.
Many of us that are interested in sort of thinking about how to live a more human life in the world that we're in right here.
Raison says there is no single answer to what compassion is and whether it lines up more with sympathy or empathy. The fact is that compassion is not only about feeling it, but about practicing it. And that is the message of this compassion training.
More than ever, we need to find a way to expand our emotional horizons so that our sense of who our tribe is really everybody. Right? So you look at the world, you look at places that were held together by strong central governments, by dictators. With the removal of those forces, you're seeing this unbelievable fragmenting into smaller and smaller ethnic tribes and these little warfare. We're going backwards. And the problem is, for the modern world to survive, we have to begin to find new ways to pull together.
To continue our discussion about the links between compassion, well-being, and society, we are joined by Leslie Langber, a clinical social worker and a certified yoga and meditation instructor. Leslie, thanks so much for joining us today.
Thanks for having me, Alan. I'm glad to be here.
First of all, Leslie, what exactly is compassion?
Compassion can be defined as the heartfelt wish for another to be happy and to be relieved of their suffering in whatever shape or form that is in.
And Leslie, why is it important for human beings to be compassionate?
Well, Alan, if we think about our society at large and how we can help to cultivate a stronger society, compassion is really integral to that. When we sincerely care about one another's well-being, then all of us really stand to benefit in a much greater way.
And is compassion a natural thing, or is it something that people learn?
It's actually both. So, cognitively based compassion training really begins on this predicate that compassion is inborn. It is a biological trait that we have for folks that are closest to us. You know, if we think about those that we feel protective of or that we feel protected by, folks that we feel affection toward, compassion comes relatively naturally. Where it doesn't come as naturally is with people that we don't know, strangers, or perhaps even people who have challenged us or even harmed us in some way. And in that regard, CBCT is a really powerful tool to systematically help expand and widen one's natural sense of compassion to those outside of their immediate group.
And looking at some benefits of compassion, what sort of physiological benefits are available in the areas of inflammation and depression?
So, Alan, I work with Dr. Charles Raison at the University of Arizona. He's done a couple of studies with colleagues in this area, and they found that meditation practitioners that have engaged in CBCT over time have reduced levels of depression and, in fact, have stronger immunity because their cortisol levels and other inflammatory causing hormones are secreted less when they're encountered with stressful situations. To describe this probably in more layperson terms, when we are more compassionate toward others, when we're able to begin to extend or widen that circle of compassion, we see people as being like us in some way, and we have this common desire to be happy and to be free of suffering. When we have that greater sense of equanimity, we also feel less isolated, and we're better equipped. We feel closer to society, to our group. We understand our interconnection with the larger world, which can help us feel less isolated and help us feel less depressed.
And Leslie, how can a person become more compassionate?
Well, through the practice of CBCT, through this mind training, if you will, one is able to begin to examine their own thought patterns and their reactions to stressful situations that come up. And through being able to take a closer look at that, then they're able to begin to understand the nature of their own suffering through a very systematic meditation process that takes place initially over a period of 8 weeks, but can unfold over an entire lifetime. Folks are able to begin to literally train their mind to be more compassionate.
Okay. And is this training, the CBCT training, is this a religious or secular situation?
It's a secular form of meditation. It was derived from the ancient Tibetan Buddhist Lojong tradition. Lojong translates to mean mind training. And it's been secularized for a Western audience. Most major religions have as one of the core tenets compassion as a very important aspect to cultivate. And so CBCT is a really wonderful and easy way to sort of build in that meditation practice that doesn't conflict in any way with one's current belief system.
Okay. And very, very briefly, Leslie, how big is the demand for compassion training?
In Tucson, we had 70 persons actually attend our recent immersion, as you know, and we have a number of different organizations and groups that have approached us here at the U of A, interested in wanting to be trained in this particular meditation practice. It's growing steadily. It emerged out of Atlanta University at Emory. Emerged from Atlanta at Emory University, and is expanding to other states. So demand is growing.
Well, Leslie, I want to thank you very much for joining us here today.
Thank you so much for having me here, Alan. It's been a pleasure.
I'm Judy Woodruff. On the next News Hour, religious freedom, women's access to contraception, and the Affordable Care Act collide at the Supreme Court. That's Tuesday on the PBS NewsHour.
As Russia tightens its hold on Crimea, people in the rest of Ukraine are anxious and angry.
It seems like Crimea was given up just without any bullets, any fire. Just come and take it. A lot of frustration. A lot of people are ready to fight and to take machine guns to protect our motherland.
I'm David Green. Ukrainians wait for Russia's next move on the next morning edition from NPR News.
Every year, more than 3,000 children are diagnosed with a painful gastrointestinal disorder called Inflammatory Bowel Disease. A team of doctors and scientists at the Steele Children's Research Center has found two proteins that may help to explain why IBD can put people at greater risk of developing osteoporosis later in life. One member of the research team, Dr. Fayez Gishan, is here to explain. Fayez, thanks so much for joining us today.
Thank you, Alan.
Could you briefly explain what is IBD?
IBD are disorders. They are complex, they are immunologically driven, and they account for like 1.5 million people in the United States with these disorders, mainly Crohn's disease and ulcerative colitis.
And what are some of the symptoms that people suffer with these two diseases, sir?
Thank you, Alan. So there are intestinal manifestation and there is extra-intestinal manifestation. The intestinal manifestations are abdominal pain, diarrhea, blood in the stools, mucus in the stools, and then the extra-intestinal manifestations are joint pain. Indeed, 20% of those patients may present with arthritis, and liver disease, kidney disease, and bone disease.
And for people who are suffering from the diseases, what sort of treatments are available at this time to help them out?
Fortunately, we have incredible drugs nowadays to treat patients with inflammatory bowel disorders. Those start with something called mesalamine, which is an aspirin now absorbed in your GI tract and heal the inflammation. Moreover, if the patient has significant disorder, we can go to something called prednisone, and then we can go to immunomodulators. Those are drugs which suppress your immune system. And finally, we have very strong drugs, and they shut down inflammatory cytokines or proteins in our system. Unfortunately, they have to be given in IV infusion.
And sir, you had a recent paper published in Gastroenterology. Could you tell me about a little bit about the research involved in that paper?
Thank you, Alan. So 50 to 60% of patients who have inflammatory bowel disorders, they have bone disease, mainly osteopenia or thinning of the bone and osteoporosis, and they have higher risk of developing fractures of the bone. So the current dogma in the entire country is to treat those patients with vitamin D. However, our research in this paper had shown that really vitamin D can make you worse if you take it during active inflammation. And the reason why they get this problem with bone disease is secondary to loss of calcium through your kidney, inability to absorb calcium and phosphate in the GI tract, and there are certain proteins in your bone which get lower and you cannot lay down calcium and phosphate in the bone.
And how can we counteract that loss of calcium? Is there a methodology available at this time?
So currently, the way to treat these patients is to give them the immunosuppressive therapy. Once you shut down the inflammation in the gastrointestinal tract, the kidneys start reabsorbing the calcium, the intestines start reabsorbing the calcium. Our research has focused in two proteins. One protein is called clotho. This protein is present in three areas in the body which regulate calcium. One is the choroidal plexus in the brain, one is in the parathyroid gland, and one in the kidney. So this protein goes down with inflammation. Once it goes down, you are unable to put the calcium transport protein up in the surface to reabsorb calcium through the GI tract and through the kidney as well. So the main problem is to shut down the inflammation, and then you can supplement the patient with vitamin D and calcium and phosphate, and they will do very well.
If I, for example, had an IBD, how would I know if I had this situation where I was losing the calcium?
So there are very simple tests to do. You can measure calcium loss in the urine by measuring 24 hours the urine and measure how much calcium you are losing compared to a control. The other thing is you can do a DEXA scan, and that scan will tell us if your bones are thinning or not.
And looking at IBD, is that something that strikes a broad range of ages, or is that kind of focused on one age group, sir?
So we believe that IBD start during adolescent age group. So between the age of 14 to 16, that's the peak where you see IBD. So it's clearly IBD is a disorder in the pediatric age group. However, there is another peak a little bit later in life where you develop IBD. We truly believe that IBD are genetically determined disorders. You inherit certain genes and then environmentally driven.
And is this something, very briefly, is this something that lasts throughout one's life then, sir?
So the disease is characterized by relapses and remission. And our task as doctors is to put you back on remission, because this disorder stays with the patient for the rest of their life.
Well, Fayez, I want to thank you very much for joining us here today.
Alan, thank you again for inviting me to be here with you.
Our next guest combines graphic design and microscopy to produce startling and even beautiful images of cancer cells. His work is not meant to beautify cancer, rather he provides a different perspective, one that may lead to new therapies. Professor of Cellular and Molecular Medicine and University of Arizona Cancer Center researcher Gus Munaimni is here to explain. Gus, thanks so much for joining us today.
Thank you for inviting me.
Gus, could you explain a little bit about how you acquire the images of cancer cells that you use in your research?
So in the lab, we do a lot of microscopy. So this is one of the major things that we're focused on, and basically to be able to image cancer cells and to be able to understand their behavior. So we use different techniques for imaging these cells, and mostly we do live cell imaging.
Okay. And what are some of the tools you use? I understand you use, in addition to microscopy, some Photoshop work is also involved?
So this is part of like the image processing, which requires like two steps, which first to analyze the images, and this is usually unaltered data, and then the presentation of the images, which is to make them look more clear and look nice, you know. But of course, this is within the context of the science, so we're not like manipulating the images to make them look different from the actual data. But this is one of the things we do. I mean, you know, to use Photoshop for that, or we also use After Effects to also edit movies, because a lot of what we do is filming the cells while they are moving, for example.
Okay. And what do these images or films actually tell you about the cancer cells, Gus?
So we focus a lot on cell migration, which is a very important step and concept in cancer biology, because this is at the heart of metastasis. And metastasis is the spreading of cancer cells from the primary tumor to secondary organs. And this is usually the cause of death in cancer. So patients don't usually die, especially in epithelial cancers. They don't die from the primary tumors, but they die from the metastasis, which causes organ failures eventually and all that.
And Gus, what is actin cytoskeleton remodeling, and how does that play into your research?
So actin is like the backbone of the cell. It's the skeleton of the cell, basically. And cells, most cells and cancer cells are like shapeshifters, so they can actually remodel their actin on the go in order to change their shape, their behavior, and their interaction with the microenvironment. And this is how they accomplish that mission, which is to be able to mostly reach the circulation and then travel to secondary organs.
And Gus, is your imaging technique able to actually show the cancer, the invasive cancer, as it moves in and multiplies then?
So we do a lot of single cell biology. So we take cancer cells, which is established cell lines or cells from patients, for example, and then we image them as individual cells to study their behavior very closely. But other labs as well, they do intravital imaging, so they image the cells in mice, for example, or other experimental models. We do also 3D imaging, so there are multiple contexts where we image cancer cells and look at their behavior.
And when we're talking about visually manipulating the cell images, what exactly are you manipulating in those images?
So we're not manipulating the data, basically, but a lot of it, I mean, and this is something that it's like more like a hobby, actually, than the science, I like graphic arts, and I like to create cartoons, basically, of the cells. And this, for me, is important because the work we do is visual, because it's based on microscopy, but also these are very complex concepts, and it's very important to simplify them in a graphic, like a cartoon, for example. And this is mostly the part that is more merging into the art, basically, more than the science.
And how is your research being used to develop possible cures or treatments for cancers?
So this is more because the focus that the question that we're after is how the cells move. And if we are able to figure that out, we're able to stop the cells, or at least to identify the cells that are prone to migrating and metastasizing to different organs. So this would be a very important step in cancer therapy, because we could, at least mitigate the step of metastasis, which would be a very important, it will have very good outcome for patients eventually.
Okay, and ultimately we have about 45 seconds left, Gus. What do you hope that your work will achieve? Are you looking for like a cure for cancer here?
Wow, this is not realistic, but what we hope to achieve realistically is to be able to understand how cancer moves and possibly test drugs or develop drugs that will block this migratory step of cancer cells. And coupled with chemotherapy, this could present an important treatment strategy in the future.
Okay, and Gus, very briefly, is this research unique to the Arizona Cancer Center here at the U of A?
I have a few colleagues working with, we work together, we collaborate. With the Cancer Center, I have a couple of colleagues also. We do a complementary work, let's say. They look at different aspects of cell migration and behavior.
Well, Gus, I want to thank you very much for joining us today.
Thank you so much for inviting me.
That's our show. To keep up with the latest news and watch the segments from this and other editions of AZ Illustrated, go to our website, news.azpm.org. I'm Alan Fisher. Thanks for watching.